Good morning and welcome to Cash on Camera, aka Command the World Stage. And I'm so excited to be here today. Today's topic is get intimate and honest to be power. Get intimate and honest to be power. Now, and I put men in parentheses because I'd like to include men in this conversation. So, hmm, first, I feel such empathy for every living being, human living being alive today, and who has lived and who will be born. We are all born into a body with vast consciousness and cultures and programming that have been here before we got here. And you pick up what is given to you by your guardians before you have power over your own cognition. And you form an identity based on that. And you form a belief system based on that. And for the vast majority of us who choose to do life deliberately, life becomes a really undoing and unconditioning of what our guardians gave us before we were aware of choice and self-programming. And as a power mentor, as a woman who is extremely powerful, and getting intimate and honest, first with myself, first, always with self, first, always with self, okay? And then opening myself to connect with other humans, male and female, devoid of stories, devoid of programming, okay? That's power to me, okay? Just imagine this first before we go on. Just really feel yourself in this state of living your day-to-day life, devoid of the automatic stories you create about things. You see her, you create a bunch of story. You see him, he says that, you make up a story. A question is unanswered, you fill it in with a story. You do it this way because your conditioning is, well, this is how life works. And you may not think it, it just shows in how you move, right? You may not consciously think it, it just shows in how you choose what you wear, how you choose, and stay with me here, okay? What I really have for you, for those of you who are sincere about power, I have real nuance and simple truths that really make a being powerful, really makes a being powerful. So stick with me, okay? If you're sincere about being in full power. So, moving along, my experience with men, okay, when it comes to intimacy, and let me define intimacy. Intimacy is a getting into a thing, getting down into the root and the core of a thing. That's intimacy to me. Okay. So you perhaps have heard into me you see, right? You've heard that before. Into me you see, right? That's getting to know me deeply, core crux. Into me you see, me doing the same with you, getting to know that's intimacy, getting to know the crux of you, the depths of you. Now, in my experience with the average man, the majority of men, they do not have experience with or a nuanced understanding of into me you see that doesn't include sexual penetration. When the average man hears intimacy, he thinks sex, like pussy, pussy. Okay. Now, I like to include patriarchy in this conversation. Oftentimes, when the conversation of patriarchy comes up, it's talked about like it's this big bully that men are, who are the problem, who must be defeated because they are the reason why we have oppression over women today. And they are the reason why Roe v. Wade, and they are the reason why rape, and they are the reason why women are this way, and they are the reason why, and we must take down the patriarchy. And the energy and the tone, oftentimes, it's the patriarchy is the motherfucking problem. Right? Now, it is true that patriarchy is a problem. It is true. Okay. And that's a nuanced conversation in and of itself, right? Because we could look at that from different angles, but obviously we're not going to do that now. And just as patriarchy exists, racism exists, sexism exists, misogyny exists, fill in the blank, right? Did you have a hand in creating misogyny? Did you have a hand in creating racism? Did you have a hand? Follow me. I'm going somewhere with this. Okay. Right. The average man today did not have a hand in creating patriarchy. Okay. Just as you were born under patriarchy or into, however you, right, into patriarchy, into an unjust world, however you see it, born into capitalism, born into sexism, born into socialism, depending on where you live in the world, like born, did you have a hand in creating that? Okay. So all of us alive today were born and patriarchy existed when we were born. Now, what happens is we're all marinating in all these systems that existed before we got here. We're all marinating in these systems that existed before we got here. And we all pick up the conditioning. We all pick it up. The best of us pick it up. We pick up some misogyny. We pick up some capitalistic ideas. We pick up, right, bits and pieces, or not, depending on the house we were raised in, depending on what ideas we decided to accept as true in our realities as we became adults. Stick with me here, okay? So now let's think about yourself for a moment. This intimacy right here is where power is for you. Bring it home. Okay, let's for a moment park all the problems of the world, all the isms, all the shit that you could personally become rageful about, global warming, child hunger, poverty, right? Let's just put it all to the side for a moment and just look at yourself. What has it been like for you to get to know who you are? What ugly have you discovered about yourself? What unjust ideas have you realized about yourself? What part of patriarchy have you also accepted as true? Are you a woman who police other women's bodies? I just want you to really be intimate and honest with yourself. That's the topic today. Intimacy and honesty has you live in power. If you're going to be a powerful, truly powerful human being, it's a game of intimacy and honesty with self, first and foremost, always. Okay. Where have you picked up some kind of sexist idea? Okay. So this is a random idea. Okay. So this idea that men unconsciously have, some men have unconsciously, that marriage means I own her. Okay. I own her. I literally had a man, a Black man, say to me about 3-4 months ago, who was born and raised in the Bay Area, 45 years old, say to me about 4 or 5 months ago, so we're in 2022. And this man says to me, the woman who I marry will take my name and I will own her. He said that to me out of his mouth, and that is no stretch of the imagination. She will take my last name, she will be in my family, and I will own her. Okay. Now, when that male was 1 year old, did he have the idea that he owns a woman? When he was 5, did he have the idea that he owns a woman? He picked that up living in a patriarchal society. He didn't create patriarchy. He picked that up living in the society, just like you pick up what you have picked up living in the society. Now, when we bring that to intimacy, okay, the way we pick up all these ideas that craft an identity, they have been impressed into our unconscious. We accept them as true. Once we accept a thing as true, we typically don't start questioning it again until we get some kind of disruption in our lives that makes us question things in ways we typically don't in our day-to-day living. Okay. When it comes time for men and women, and I'm using this just for today, we could talk about this in a number of contexts. We could talk about it with men and children. We could talk about it with seniors and children. I mean, like we could talk about it in a number of contexts. In this context, I'm talking about it with men and women who are born as men and women, okay? Or male and female, okay? When it comes time for the two sexes to be intimate, excluding sexual penetration, intimacy of into me you see, into me you see, devoid of conditioning of I own you, devoid of your female and your primary purpose is to fuck me and cook for me and clean and submit to me, devoid of that. Devoid of her saying, your job is to do this for me. You're this age, therefore you should be this. You're this race, so you should live like this. You are this, so you are that. And I expect this, and you are that. So devoid of all that. This is what I'm talking about, this kind of intimacy. Now, in this intimacy, all of that will come up. So this is not to make that bad and wrong and to blame and to judge it. It's to acknowledge that that conditioning is there, first of all. Okay, it is there. Penetration, or not penetration, but stimulation in the genitals. Yeah. We avoid this. We avoid this. And it starts just being a stranger outside where, like, I'm constantly looking at humans to see who's going to look at me and who's going to avert eyes. Right there is one example of how we avoid intimacy. Okay. So I'm sitting with a man, and this has been my experience. And I've signed up for programs where intimacy is on the menu. the into me you see, devoid of conditioning, and to really connect. I've done this many times, and every single time it's been in a white community, frankly. Okay. I've yet to find a Black community where this kind of intimacy happens. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying I've never come across it. Okay. However, it is a desire of mine to create that for all humans, not just Blacks, but all of us. Okay. So typically, when it comes to intimacy, into me you see, devoid of programming, me judging you, expecting things of you, right? Recognizing that it will come up, and my job is to calm it. Because my real desire here is to connect with you, not just to connect with you, or you just to connect with me. That is a part of it. But so that together we touch that spot that connects all humans. When we can make a habit of that, see where we're going? Stay with me. When we can make a habit of that, where we first come home to ourselves, like I said, intimacy and honesty with self. First, always. There's no way you can do it with others if you are unwilling to do it with yourself, right? Coming home to self, intimacy and honesty with self, making it a habit. And then connecting, being able to then come with humans who are willing, right? Because that's a special human who's willing to connect with you in that way. And touching that space and creating from that space, creating your business, making your choices from, moving about your life in that way. Now, let me even connect this even further for how useful this is in your life. How is this useful, right? That experience, once you have it, so like once you see something, you can't unsee it. Once you have that experience of really connecting in that intimate way that's devoid. This was a big part of also my Better Sex and Deeper Intimacy tour that I went on in 2014. It was to have humans connect with each other. Yes, genitals will be stimulated. You're in a body. You have conditioning, okay? And you're so much more. You're so much more. And the boredom of life, the, wasting away, when I say wasting away, I mean doing the same thing all the time that you're not interested in really. You just do it because it's your habit, because it's comfortable, even though it's painful and boring. And just feeling like no one is ever meeting you where you really want to be met. There's what's interesting about your life that you believe is interesting and that feels alive and on. And so once you have this experience with another human being, you can always revisit it alone in your intimacy with self, in your connection, in your remembering with the vastness of who you and other human beings are. Because when you touch this place with another human being, whether it's literally sitting for 2 minutes looking at each other, no words, and watching how your thoughts do things, feeling the sensations in your body and being present with another human being and recognizing, wow, what you're sitting in front of, the vastness that you're sitting in front of, connecting with. And you start to feel each other in this silence. You start to feel each other. And when you both stay committed to that experience, you can set a timer for this, by the way. When you stay connected to this experience, eventually you touch that spot that connects all human beings. Now, you don't have to do the I thing. That's one way of doing it. Some of you may have heard of orgasmic meditation, where it's a 15-minute partner practice where a person, typically a male, strokes the upper, I can't remember if it's the left or the right, but strokes the upper left or right hand quadrant of a woman's clitoris. They could know each other. They could be strangers who are committed to the practice. It's timed. It's all about her feeling. It's about them two connecting and hitting that spot that connects all human beings. That's another way to do this. Another way could be just sitting in the room with no distraction, without looking at each other, but sitting next to each other where your bodies are touching each other. The point is why? Like, why do we do this? Why? To connect to the spot where true power and connectivity lives. True power and connectivity. Power is actually really simple. It's actually really simple. Me saying that a woman being in power is dangerous is because I'm aware of the conditioning. I'm aware of the programming. I'm aware of the story making that people have about a woman's body, about her choosing, right? Like the average man, and this goes back to what I said earlier about men have because of patriarchy, living in a patriarchal society, most men's identity is very tightly wound, not only patriarchy, but, and this is deep, so I have thoughts, yeah, see, I go to places that are just true, that is just, you need to understand we live in orbits of ethers. Everything that always was and will be exists all the time right now. We always know what's going on. You don't even, like, we read, yes, because the mortal brain likes story and explanations. So it helps to validate what those of us who are connected already know. That's part of the value of books, okay? And so the wiring that men have, that's a setup. It's not even, a lot of that wiring isn't even true. Like, we play on it to exist in these bodies. You see that, right? That's a whole other conversation. But anyway, most men think that if a woman is dating 10 men, that she's having sex with 10 men. Living in a patriarchal society, the limited conditioning, programming of men, and that the function of a woman is to be with one man, to get married, to live under this system, to do like this is what a good woman looks like. You know how limiting that is? To be like, she looks like this, and that's it. Like, what if we looked at men and said, this is your role and this is only your role? Anything outside of that, you're not valuable. Really, we live in this vast experience, and you're telling me my only function is that? Your only function is that? This is why, as you really get into intimacy with yourself and you see with limitless eyes, I don't mean the stuff that humans create out of boredom, because I just want to, when you really get down into the truth of consciousness, the infinite, vast, you don't need to create this shit out here to, okay? So I include men in this conversation because, uh, hello, hello, of course. And I desire very much to see men expand their capacities in this lifetime. So many women, part of the anger and frustration and rage that a lot of women have that's like against the patriarchy and against men and the war that's going on, it's like a cry. It's a cry. It's a, please be more than what patriarchy has told you to be. Please come to know who you are. Please see me in a more expanded capacity. There's a man online who I really like and respect. His name is R.C. Blakes. And he has said so many times that women are smarter than men. And it's true. And women, especially in the last, 50 years, because there was so much, especially with no internet, and so folks were confined to their worlds and felt like they were, you know, alone, and that's just the way it was. And with the opening of the internet, we are now connecting with each other and we're seeing. And so there's been this rapid, everything that women were keeping down. You need to understand this, what's in women now is not new, it's just on the internet now. In this reference of how women were back then, and women knew how to keep a man. They were submissive back then. They knew how to be a wife. I think we all kind of know what was really going on. I don't know. We know, right? And so for the men today who are over 40, go talk to your mom. Has she been honest with you about what it's been like being married to your father? Is she ever really going to be honest with you? I don't know. Do you know her heart? Or do you just know how she is around you, how she is around your father and her husband? Like, do you know her secrets? Do you know her heart? Do you know what it was like for her truly being her, your mother and her husband's wife? Do you know? Do you know if she ever wanted her own money? Did she have her own money? What was that like? Right? A lot of the she knew how to submit is because women, we know men. We pay attention to men. We know how to make them feel what they need to feel to create peace in the house. And if my food and housing is depending on you, I know how to act to make sure I get what I need. Now, does that mean I'm happy? Does that mean um, my submission is honest? Does that? No, but most men don't care, right? As long as most men, right? Not all. As long as they are feeling what they want to feel, which is like respected, like the man of the house, like the. So does that mean, she was, like I said, happy and uh, uh, going where she wanted to go deeply, right? And what was she telling her daughter as a result? Right? Like all these women now who are independent. Many of these women are women whose mother was submissive because she had to be, because her food and housing came from this man. So she cooperated with that role. And so the men thought, well, look it, she's happy. Look, this marriage is being kept together. Look at it. Meanwhile, she's telling her daughter quietly, baby, make sure you have your own money, stash it away. Every woman knows that that's the secret that your mother tells you. Make sure you always have your own money, even if you stash it away, even if you take some of the money that he gives you and put it in a stash. And because so many of those women, their husbands left them. They never learned how to take care of themselves. So now they're 50 years old and they don't know how to make money. Okay. They have to get money from him to get their feminine hygiene products. And at a deep, deep level of self preservation, deep biological level of self preservation, if you know that your very well being, food and housing, is dependent on someone else, you're going to contort yourself into a number of ways to make sure you can eat. And then you have children, and of course, you want your children to have, and if you know you can't give it to them, you're going to cooperate with the person who can give it to them. So many men today think that that is the way that works. And the truth is, for billions of women, it does not work. Okay. And what we really desire for many of us, and I'm going to speak generally now, right? Because my position is very, yeah, in talking with women, my experiences falls under a very narrow group of women. Okay. But I think, and this is based on me putting tentacles out and working with so many women all over the world, you know, I'd say 70% of women actually want children. They may or may not want the husband piece, but they want a good father to contribute. They want children. They want to do a lot of uh, the biological things that women do, some of the tradition of what women do. They want the unit. They want the structure. I say 70% of women approximately want that. Okay. The other 30% of women are really looking to do something that they were born to do, okay, that they were made for. Okay. Now, I'm not saying the women in the 70% don't want that too, but they also want the family unit, which oftentimes competes with, and it doesn't have to compete. It's just that's a lot of the struggle. Okay. And them finding ways to be successful with that. And there are mothers who are living their purpose with families, who are teaching women who want to live their purpose and have families to do that and be profitable. That exists. And that's wonderful. And many of the women who are in the 30%, who are a lot of the ones who you see online raging, okay, and many who are not online, who are raging, who are upset. We really hunger for men to see us outside of the typical box of this is what a woman is and does, and this is her role, and you live here and live here only. To have the vast experience of getting to know yourself, of like experiencing other men. That doesn't mean sex is involved, or even being aware that women have that ability to engage with other men, that we have emotional control, emotional maturity, that we find it interesting to get to know other humans, and that includes other men, right? And that doesn't mean we're having sex with 10 men, right? It is very possible for me to have sex with just you and experience other men through dinners, through lunches, through, you know, other social elements. And I'm not saying this is all women or 30% of women. I'm saying there are women who fall into this, who don't fall into the confines of your job is to submit to me, and right. And there's a place for that, for the two people who agree to that and who are truly fulfilled in living in under that circumstance for the rest of their life. Right? There are people who are very pleased and deeply fulfilled truly at that level. Again, this is why I have said and will continue to say that coming home first, intimacy and honesty with self first, is what enables you to be intimate and honest with another human being so you can create a unit, a family with that other being or more, right? Where there's true fulfillment, true power, true happiness, because that's really the only way you're going to live your dreams and do life good. You know, yeah, struggle just to struggle, or you find a way to end the struggle. It's a lot of lying. Women who are, I don't know very many women who completely depend on a man, meaning for food and housing, like really, like that's major right there. You're 40, 45, 50 years old and you depend on a man for your food and your housing, like at a D, unless she truly happy with that, like, okay. And so like you got to go to him for money for your, I don't know, your allowance to buy your tampons and your maxi pads, and look at biologically when it comes to self-preservation. And This is not to get on that per se. It's to get on, gosh, so many of us want so much more. And to really connect, devoid of this programming. We're vast. We are so vast. And I've known this for so long. And it's like a lot of the war online, I've just totally disconnected from the conversations happening online. They're just so boring and redundant. That's what you want. Go find a woman who wants that. That's what you want. Go find a man. Be available for the man who's open to that. And it may take some time to meet that guy, right? And you're living in your purpose, god damn. Then you make time for him, space for him, and vice versa, making space for her. And the experience that you're really looking, what's the use? What's the experience that you're really looking to have in your relationships? Because if you plan to be around, if you plan to be here, let's really make it count. Okay. So you are loved. You are powerful beyond measure. I look forward to having more offline experiences. I am actually incubating privately as I'm creating. You hear that? That's my niece. All righty. So find ways. You can start with eye contact, just out and about in your day. Just start connecting with people. You know, like I said, bring it home first. Intimacy with self, honesty with self. Then find ways to connect with others intimately, honestly, devoid of story making, devoid of who she is and not your own things, your own stories in your head that keep you back. Oh, it's a glorious game. And so I look forward to connecting with you next Monday, 8 a.m. And I'll leave you with this. Life is a hard game.